Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be recapping my round 4 game that I played in the World Open. Now going into this game I was at 1.5 points out of 3 with 3 draws. In the 4th round I'm with the white pieces and I play someone rated 2139. And I start off the game with e4, my opponent plays e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, the Golka piano, castles, knight f6, then I go d3, castles, c3, and here he plays this move d5. And d5 is something I've only ever faced. I've never faced this. This is the first time. And usually black goes d6 and maybe bishop e6 here, or rook e8, bishop e6. But I just take the pawn and go knight bd2. He goes knight b6, attacking my bishop, and now I go bishop e5. So now I'm currently threatening to ruin his pawn structure by taking the knight, and also I could win this pawn. My opponent goes bishop d6, defending the pawn. I go rook e1, attacking it, so renewing the threat of bishop takes c6. And now he goes bishop g4. I kick the bishop out of that square. He goes bishop h5, maintaining the pin. And now I go knight e4, attacking this bishop, but not really threatening to take it, because let's say after something like f5, knight d6, cd6, these pawns are now together, and I don't have a target on e5 like I did before. And I could potentially be worse here because now he has more space. But after knight e4, my opponent goes a6, and okay, after knight e4, my plan is to go knight g3, so I could force him to trade off his bishop for my knight. But now with a6, I can now ruin his pawn structure and go knight g3. But when he goes back, now I can take the pawn. After bishop e5, rook e5, his idea was he could take my pawn d3, but after a move like queen g4, I now felt very confident that I was definitely better here because I had more space, and this could be a potential weak king I could target, like moves like bishop h6, rook g5, and knight h5. So my opponent goes bishop g6, defending his king, and now I go h4. And here he goes queen d7, offering a queen trade, which does seem sensible here in a position where I could attack him, but actually it's a mistake, and I sensed that it was the right thing to do to trade queens here. Instead of queen d7, I thought my opponent could have potentially went knight d7. In that case, my original idea was just go rook e1 backup, but after knight f6, queen f3, and queen d5, my opponent is now threatening to trade queens, and I just didn't feel like I had enough in this position. So after knight d7, I was actually going to go rook a5, and after knight f6, queen f3, there's no more queen d5, and now I am now threatening things like h5 and h6. So after queen d7, I trade off the queens, but after rook e7, my rook is now in the 7th rank, where a rook is usually the most active, and combined with threats like bishop f4, attacking c7, and h5, I am definitely better here. I'm definitely the one pressing. So now he goes rook fd8, and I go bishop f4, the same plan. And now my opponent goes knight c5. He gives up this pawn to just try and get activity against my queenside pawns. I go h5 first, bishop c2, and I go rook c1, attacking the bishop. My opponent goes bishop d1, and now I take the pawn. Here he goes rook d5. And in this position, I do make an error, and I trade rooks, which he eventually does. But apparently, according to the computer, trading rooks was not the move, and I was supposed to go c4, or actually f3 here, and to just keep this bishop out of like the position. So this bishop's now actually trapped. There's not really any good moves. If my opponent goes bishop a4, I go b3, and I threaten. And after bishop e5, c4, I win a piece. So after f3, if my opponent goes something like knight e6, after c4, rook d3, knight e4, I'm actually doing totally fine, and he can't just go king f8, because I can go bishop d6, and after rook d6, there's rook takes f7, king f7, knight d6, king 7, and rook d1, defending the knight, winning the piece back, and I'm now just up 2 pawns. I didn't see any of that. That's an incredibly long line for me. And so I go rook e5, trading off the rooks, and for me it felt like it made sense, especially since I was up material, and but my opponent does have drawing chances with opposite colored bishops, I felt I also had very good chances to win the game. So my opponent trades off the rooks, and now plays this move bishop takes h5, a tactical shot which I actually did not see at all. And the point is, if knight takes h5, knight e3, and if I move the rook, he takes the bishop, and now he restores material equality, and I am not better here. So after bishop takes h5, my first immediate instinct was, let's just take the pawn on g7. And the point is, if king g7, I can now take the bishop, and I'm still up a pawn with more pieces traded off. But after bishop g7, bishop g6, and something like bishop d4, knight e3, rook c2, I didn't really like my chances to win this position. I felt with obstacled bishops, and with this position, I didn't really feel good about my chances to win this game. And also, on top of that, I saw another idea, which is, after knight e3, I could go bishop f4 and actually save my rook. The point is, if my opponent goes g6 to try to undermine my bishop, it actually loses due to the move rook d1. After knight takes b2 attacking my rook, I go rook d2. After knight c4 attacking my rook again, I go rook d4. And after knight b6, I just save my knight. So after bishop f4, he had to take the rook. And after bishop takes c1, I thought I could just grind this endgame out. And on the surface, it looks like I'm just winning because, well, I have two pieces and my opponent has a rook. I should be winning. But actually, I'm not. And here, my opponent goes g6, which is actually just an error in this position. It is a mistake. Here, I knew the only move for him to try to draw this game was to go rook d8. And after bishop e3, rook d1, king h2, and a move like rook a1, it's clear that in this position I cannot save both these pawns. I can only save one of them. Because after a3, he has rook a2, and so my plan was I was going to go knight f4, and after the rook takes a2, b4, I can plant the bishop on d4 and just try to grind this endgame up with the two pieces against the rook. But he goes g6, and after knight f4, then he goes rook d8. But now the position is different because after all of this, if he goes rook a1, a3, rook b1, I can actually go knight d3 defending the pawn on b2. And I can save both these pawns, and now I could just win the game if I bring my king to the center. So he goes king f8, activating his king. I bring my king over here to attack his rook, and now I save my pawn, king c7, and now we go knight d3. With an idea of just defending my pawn b2, but also, more importantly, I can now go bishop c1, and now the rook's completely trapped, and now I just try to trap the rook. So because after a4, I go king d2, king d6, king c2, I am now threatening potential stuff with b3 and bishop b2, and I also had another idea in this position, which he actually fell for after h5. I'm actually going to put my knight here instead of my bishop, with the point, and the point is after f6, I can now go b3. I can give up this pawn, but I'll always have king b2. And after g5, we go bishop b8, rook a3, king b2, gives up the rook. Now after h4, it's all a matter of technique. I bring the king to these pawns. After king f5, king e3, I just activate it, king g5, king e4. I provoke f5 check, but I can actually go king e3. I control these dark squares. For c5, I go c4, I cement this pawn, so now it could just be an easy target for me. For king h5, king f4, king g6, bishop e5, my opponent resigns the game because after something like h3, g takes, king g3, I win this pawn, and I probably cement my bishop, and I win the game. So yeah, this was a tough game. I thought I didn't really face too many issues until this knight e3 idea. And had he gone rook d8, he might have just saved the draw. But overall, it was a pretty good game by me. My next video will be me recapping my round 5 game. I currently still have 2.5 out of 4. And yeah, that's all for today, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.